there's not an agenda for the future, and that's why we're replacing it. You know, his presidency also shrunk from the promises he made as a candidate. He promised that his would be a post-partisan presidency. But we've watched him over these last 4 years, and he's been divisive and demonized almost any group that opposed him. He also promised that he would cut the deficit in half. Instead, he doubled it. And you know, I know he says he wants to do something to help the budget, but I've learned that in order to balance a budget, it helps to have actually had a budget. Just start with a budget. You can't balance a budget unless you start with one. And he actually put out a proposal this last year for the House and the Senate to look at. Now, there are 535 members of the House and Senate combined. Do you know how many people voted for his budget?
Zero.
Yeah, zero. No one voted for his budget. Paul Ryan and I are going to get America on track to have a balanced budget. He took on, during his campaign, another big promise. He said he would save Medicare. He'd preserve it and protect it and save it from pending insolvency. What did he do instead? He cut Medicare by $716 billion. He said he was going to have unemployment today down to 5.4%. We're 9 million jobs short of that. And he has no plan to get this economy going again to put Americans to work. You notice there's some numbers he doesn't speak about. He doesn't use the number 47. That happens to be how many million people are on food stamps today. 15 million more than when he took office. He doesn't use the number 23 million. That's the number of people who are struggling to find a good job in this country. The president doesn't have a plan. He's out of ideas. He's out of excuses. And this November, Florida is going to make sure we put him out of office.
Yeah.
Now, in 2010, then President Obama came to Pensacola. You probably weren't there, but some folks were. He took pride in saying, and I quote, that he had halted reductions in the Navy. That's what he said. But today he again has shrunk to a smaller version of the Navy and his view of the Navy's role. You may recall in our most recent debate, I made the point that our Navy is now smaller than any time, well, in almost 100 years. And the president's response was, well, you know, we don't use bayonets and horses anymore. And in fact, we do use bayonets. And the modern Navy is one of the critical elements that allows us to protect sea lanes and to keep the world more free and prosperous. I believe in a modern Navy. That's why my plan is to increase the number of ships that we're building to maintain our strong military. His vision is not greatness in America's Navy or America's military. His vision is to cut our military spending by $1 trillion. And by the way, $1 trillion in cuts would cost about 41,000 jobs here in Florida. And think of all the businesses that depend upon those jobs. It's extraordinary.